Hey there, this is Gregory from Dapp University. So today I'm going to give you some free training in preparation for my blockchain developer bootcamp, which is coming out next week. All right, so this free training is going to be how to become a highly paid blockchain developer to prepare you for the bootcamp, okay? So it's going to be a multi-part video series where I cover several different topics. I'm going to talk about how much blockchain developers actually make, why they're highly paid, what companies are getting into the space, the kinds of skills they're looking for, and also some strategies about how you can break into the blockchain industry and become a highly paid blockchain developer, all right? So you're gonna wanna watch this full video, and you're gonna wanna keep an eye on your email inbox when I send out the next videos in this training, right? They're gonna get unlocked, and I'm gonna send them to you. So you're gonna wanna follow along with each video in this training in order to learn how to become a highly paid blockchain developer in preparation for the bootcamp. All right, so you might have seen the headline of this video or the email where I talked about how I personally made $20,000 in 1 week as a blockchain developer, okay? So I'm gonna talk about that. I'll give you a story about how I did that. I'm gonna start from square one about how I got into blockchain and saw the opportunity and actually got to the point where I made 20K in 1 week. And really quickly, if you're new around here, I'm Gregory, and I created Dapp University as a resource to help people learn how to build blockchain technology and become highly paid blockchain developers. So I'm a self-taught programmer. I've been doing this a while, and I didn't go to a coding boot camp. I didn't go get a computer science degree. I taught myself the hard way, all right? And I've been programming for a while before I got into blockchain, and I had to learn blockchain the hard way, which was on my own. I had to piece together all the learning resources. There weren't really many available out there on the internet. And that's one of the reasons I created Dapp University, was to have a learning resource that I didn't have when I started learning, okay? And since then, I've helped thousands of people on YouTube and Udemy and my website, etc., speaking at conferences. I've helped thousands and thousands of people learn how to build blockchain technology. All right, so let's get into this story about how I went from zero in blockchain to, making 20K in a week. All right, so I got into blockchain like a lot of other people did. I saw cryptocurrency price action. And specifically, I was watching Bitcoin price go up and up and up and up and up. And it seemed like something that was too good to be true, right? I was saying, why is this happening? And so I examined the technology underneath it. It was very intriguing. So I didn't get in it just for, cryptocurrency speculation. I wanted to get into the tech, right? I wanted to invest in the technology itself. And the more research I did, the more it looked like this was a massive trend that was taking off. Not just because of cryptocurrency prices and the cryptocurrency market cap, but also lots of other data points like weekly downloads of developer tools were through the roof. It was a trend that was growing and growing and growing. And I heard all the hype about, blockchain being like the early days of the internet. And I thought to myself, like, what would it be like to have been a web developer in those early days? And, could I seize this once in a lifetime opportunity to become one of the world's first blockchain developers? And so that's what I did. I decided that I would just go for it. All right. And I thought about this idea of economic supply and demand, right? If this place is growing really rapidly and there's money pumping into it to hire people, there's not enough people to really fill the jobs. And with that trend, I saw a massive economic opportunity to become highly paid. It's basic supply and demand. If this space is growing really rapidly and companies want to rush in, there's not really enough people to fill the demand, fill the jobs. I'll talk about more of that later. But essentially, that's just how you become highly paid. It's simple supply and demand economics, all right? So, like I said, I jumped in and, there's no way for me to really find out if you could be highly paid without just testing it out, just seeing if I could earn the money, all right? So I'm gonna talk about that, how I started charging and how I got to the point where I was charging $20,000 for a project that took me, a week to do. So basically, I started freelancing and I started charging my, normal hourly rate just as a conservative way to see if I could get the work. And I got the work. So I started raising the hourly rate and people kept paying it. So I just kept raising it. And I got to the point where I stopped charging for hourly work and I just started charging on a project basis based on the value that someone would get out of the project, right? It didn't matter how long it took me to actually fulfill it. It just matters about the value that the client got. So I got to the point where I said, okay, I'm going to start charging, like $20,000 for this service. And much to my dismay, I got a lot of no's initially, so I got a little bummed out, like, oh man, like I messed up. Like maybe there's not the opportunity here. Until I got a client who actually paid it. And I was like, boom, Mind blown. I actually got someone to pay for the service because they saw the value in it. They saw the opportunity in blockchain, and they were willing to pay me that kind of money because they knew that they were going to get the tools they needed to make a lot more money for themselves as a business. And that's how I made $20,000 in 1 week. All right, so let me pause the story here really quickly and just clarify a couple things. I don't love talking about how much money I make. I don't like to brag. I don't get on my YouTube channel and talk about this. This is part of the exclusive training just between us. And, I only tell it because I want to show that there is an opportunity out there. I want to show you what's possible. And I'll actually pull the invoices here up on the screen. So it was paid across several invoices, including a Bitcoin transaction, but they all total up to $20,000, and that was for one project. And also, full disclosure, I didn't start the project on a Monday and finish it on the Friday. It just took about a week of work, which was really less than 40 hours. And so if you get the calculator out here, let's see here, let's just say it was 30 hours, which is probably, I don't even know if it was 30 hours. So I'll just divide that, $20,000 divided by 30. That's $667 an hour. That's really not too bad. I mean, let's just say it was 40 hours. 20,000 divided by 40. That's $500 an hour. It's not too bad. And also, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and just make that kind of money, right? It took me a while to test out prices and get to that point. But I talk about this because I want to show you that the opportunity is actually there. I'm not just making this up. Okay, and so to validate that further, let's not just talk about my experience. Let's look at a study. Let's look at some data about what other people are actually making, what you could expect to make at a job or something like that, and look at other opportunities, okay? So I've got a report pulled up here on my screen from hire.com that talks about, some stats about what blockchain developers are making and what's going on in the blockchain industry. So the first big stat is that blockchain demand is up 517%. That's 517% year over year growth. What if the price of Bitcoin went up 517%? People would be going nuts, all right? So blockchain developer demand is through the roof, as you can see with this graph. I mean, it just goes off the screen. I can't even scroll that far. It's crazy compared to these other ones. Look at security engineer, only grew by 132%. That's still a lot, but blockchain just decimates every other field, front-end engineer, 4%. So if you're going to pick, hey, where do you want to learn? Do you want to pick the thing that's growing like crazy or the thing that, saw a modest 4% growth? All right, so like the report says, as demand increases, so do salaries. Okay, that's exactly what I've been saying, simple economics. So let's look at what blockchain developers are actually making, and you can break it down by city. So let's look at the big opportunity, right? So if you want to make a lot, you can live in a place like San Francisco. That's where blockchain developers are making $155,000 US dollars per year. $155,000 per year. All right. So granted, that is San Francisco, and that's for somebody with some experience. But let's just think about this a little bit, right? Let's just get the calculator out. Let's just say let's do some napkin numbers here and say, say it's 155K. Let's say you made half of that, just half, right? We'll say 155,000 divided by 2, right? I don't know what you're making right now, but if it doesn't have much opportunity, starting out at $77,500 is pretty close to 100,000. You're getting there, and you could probably get to that point, quickly if you have the skills and you work really hard, right? So now, if you're an experienced developer and you learn blockchain, I don't see any reason why you couldn't start getting a lot closer to that $155,000 mark. Or even just start there if you have plenty of experience and really master blockchain and get good at it, right? And so let's think about this statistic too. If an average of $155,000, that means there's people that are making more than that in blockchain. So the opportunity is even higher, and the sky is really the limit. Like I talked about how, I made 20K in 1 week as a blockchain developer. You can able to do that kind of stuff as a freelancer. And let's look at it by, a couple other cities. We've got, New York. Blockchain engineers are making, they're number 2 at an average of $137,000 per year. Let's see, Toronto, London, let's just say London here. Blockchain engineers are making about $90,000 average per year. So that gives you an idea about, where some of the averages are. But I'll give you a hint. You don't have to live in San Francisco in order to take a San Francisco job. You can work remotely. That's an option for you as a blockchain developer. It's a very distributed workforce. You could just, live where you live and get a job at one of these tech hubs, right? There's plenty of companies who would hire you as a remote if you're good, right? So now I'll emphasize this. I can't make any guarantees about what kind of money you're going to make as a blockchain developer. There's a lot of factors that go into compensation, but I will emphasize that the opportunity is there. And for someone who really works hard, is wanting to hustle and get into this game, there's plenty of opportunity. And also going down this report, it talks about how software engineers in London who know blockchain are making more compared to their counterparts. So they're saying if you live in London, you make more than any other type of tech if you work in blockchain on average. So even if even if blockchain maybe isn't the highest average paid, if you're in blockchain, you're more likely to be higher paid for your same skill set than you would in doing something else. If you're thinking, oh, I could never make that type of money, or it's too hard, or it would take me too long to get to that point, or whatever the reason is, right? I'm not sure what your reason is if you have that doubt. I want to challenge you, right, for two things. One is to not have such all or nothing type thinking, right? That's the first thing. If you're like, well, I can't, just get out and get that kind of salary like tomorrow, right? You think it's going to be too hard. I don't believe myself. Let's just challenge yourself. It's really enjoyable to have goals that you're working toward. And you might surprise yourself as to what you could actually make if you, sought out the right opportunities and were strategic. And I'm going to talk more about how to be strategic and market yourself as a blockchain developer in the upcoming videos in this training. So you're going to want to watch those, all right? And also, if you're just like, oh, it's too hard, it's going to take too long, I don't want to do it. It's going to be hard. Learning something new that you've never done before is always hard, but it's rewarding. Like, imagine what you could do with that kind of salary if you don't have anything close to that right now, right? Several years ago, that's an opportunity that would have sounded really great to me, and that would be, a field that I want to get into. And that's like one of the reasons I got into blockchain at all. I'm not telling you something that I, wouldn't find attractive myself. That's why I'm here. And that's really, point two is just think about the long term, right? Especially if you're a beginner. If you're like, oh no, I can't get out and just instantly get a job in blockchain and start making all kinds of money. Just think about the long term, right? I showed you, how the growth chart where, front-end engineering is up 4% and blockchain development is up 570%. Like, think about planting a tree, right? You want to grow this tree for a long time, right? So would you rather plant a tree, in something that's going to grow at 4%, or would you rather plant a tree in something that's going to grow 517% and looks like it's not slowing down anytime soon, right? Your ship is going to rise with that tide if you plant in this soil where blockchain is taking off like crazy, right? And you got to think about the long term. Sure, you might not come out the gate, making $155K a year initially, but there's such an opportunity for you. That's really what this data is about, to show you the massive opportunity that's there for you compared to other technologies. And if you're new and you have no programming experience or very little, it's going to be hard to get into blockchain, but it'll be worth it. And I'll just tell you, there can be big rewards when you get in on a trend really early. I can just tell you that, right? Think about all these massive companies like Amazon, Tesla, right? They built their companies, they honed their skills, at the beginning of a trend that really took off. And me, just like everybody else in the world, wishes they could have purchased Bitcoin when it first came out at a really cheap price, right? If you had done that way back then and caught that trend, you would have made zillions of dollars. So here's your next chance to catch a trend and become one of the world's first blockchain developers. And once you do, you're going to have all this opportunity open up to you to become highly paid. All right, so that's, the massive opportunity that's available to you as a blockchain developer. That's the end of part one of this free training. So in part two of the free training, I'm going to talk about, the specific skills that people are hiring for, and also, what kinds of companies are hiring, who's pumping money into the blockchain space. So keep an eye on your email inbox for that next video in this free training. I'm going to send it to you. Keep an eye on your email, and I'll talk to you then.